Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. As someone with type 1 diabetes who has had their fair share of complications, one of my most asked questions is, how does diabetes affect your vision? I have diabetic retinopathy. I have it pretty late stage, pretty severe, and I really want to share my story. My hope is that I can help others to not make the mistakes I did. What is diabetic retinopathy? Diabetic retinopathy is the damage to the blood vessels in your retina. Your retina is responsible for your vision, your sight. This can happen to type 1s or type 2s and does not discriminate. The longer you have diabetes and the more not controlled it is, the more likely you are to get diabetic retinopathy. The good news: you can catch it early and it is very maintainable. It is even maintainable caught late, but a lot of damage cannot be undone. So this is why I always say it's so important to go to the eye doctor every year, maybe twice a year, and make sure that they are checking out the back of your eye and catching any weird things that might be going on and taking care of them before they get too severe and damage your eye in a way that cannot be undone. What are the symptoms? I'm going to go through each one, but the umbrella of it is any vision changes. It just really watch for these symptoms. So dark spots, or what they call dark strings, that's blood in your eye. So could potentially be coming from blood vessels that are leaking blood. If you're noticing little floaters, blood, that's a big sign. Vision fluctuation is huge. So if you're noticing one day there's maybe some haziness in the eye and then it's clearing up a little bit. I experienced this. This is fairly new for me. Blurred vision. This one really stands out to me because this is the symptom that I had first that I ignored. Spots in your vision, like blind spots or dark areas in your vision. And I remember to this day, I was sitting in bed and I was reading, and the words had little spots where it was almost like someone erased part of the letter. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I continued to live my life. And vision loss in general. If you're noticing that you're having your vision is closing in, or you're having vision loss where there's bigger spots in your vision, that could also be something to do with your macula, which is the center of your retina. It's like the central vision. But to be safe, overall, any vision changes, go see your doctor. And I cannot stress this enough, if you see your doctor on a regular basis, you can catch it early if you are developing diabetic retinopathy. So with early diabetic retinopathy, you're not growing new abnormal blood vessels, but the ones that are already in your eye, they can weaken, they can get these little tiny protrusions that can leak blood or fluid into the eye. And because your blood vessels are leaking this fluid into your eye, it can cause collection of fluid under your macula, which again is the center, the part responsible for the central vision of your eye. It can cause what's called, if you ever heard the word macular edema, it's essentially the fluid collects under your macula, and then that can cause blurred vision and vision loss as well. With advanced diabetic retinopathy, those blood vessels we talked about before that were actively bleeding or leaking fluid, they actually are so damaged they close off, and then that sends a signal for your eye to grow new blood vessels, which unfortunately start to grow, and they are already irregular, they're abnormal, and they are weak. Because they are so weak, they can rupture, and that's what causes the blood, like the hemorrhaging in the eye. It literally will just be like, and you'll see it because it's inside of your eye. It's not something, I used to have people be like, oh, I can't see any blood on your eye, but it's because it's inside, it's in your retina. That blood can also bleed into what is called the vitreous gel of the eye, which is just essentially the liquid jelly part of your eye. These are not medical terms. At that point, you could potentially need to have what's called a vitrectomy, where they go in and they suction out that gel and they replace it with a solution, and it's taking out the blood, but along with the jelly in the eye. I hope no one's eating while watching this video. This is also something that happened to me because these blood vessels in the advanced stages are closing off. They can essentially are dead. They're not doing their work anymore. They can cause scarring, and that scarring can cause the retina to lift, and it can cause tearing of the retina or detachment, which is what I had. So I had to have retina surgery to remove the scars and then weld the retina back down. If you have diabetes for a long period of time, it does raise your chances of getting diabetic retinopathy just from, having that stress on your body for a long time of having the diabetes. Poorly controlled diabetes for also extended periods of time. I'm not talking about a spike here and there. I'm talking about extended periods of time where you have very poor control of your blood sugar. My A1C for years was 14, 15. So of course it does depend on the person, but if you are doing the right thing and you are taking care of yourself and keeping those blood sugars as level as possible without those huge up and down roller coasters and those spikes, you're not gonna wake up one day and just be blind. High blood pressure and high cholesterol can also be a factor, so keep that in mind as well. Obviously, good diet and working out. I noticed for me when I was working out, even though doing weights, and it is kind of a double-edged sword because for me, if I do too heavy of weights or I strain myself too much, that can cause rupture as well of the blood vessels. But if I'm doing lighter weights, but making sure I'm getting that workout in, I find that my eye health is much better and much more stable. Piggyback off of that, what are the treatments? So things you can do at home for yourself is obviously maintain your stress. Everybody talks about meditation and yoga and working out. Those things are so important, especially for diabetics. Not to mention we are at higher risk for heart attacks. Keeping your cholesterol at a good level, healthy diet, making sure, there are supplements and foods that are great for your eyes as well. There are injections that are given into the eye. They are needles that go into your eyeball, not straight into your eye like you're looking at it, but they keep your eye open and you kind of look down. Mine were usually always in the top corners. And they inject a medication that stops the signal from going to your brain that you require more blood to the eye and more blood vessels, so they don't grow. There are surgeries. There are, like I said earlier, vitrectomies where they pull that blood and the vitreous jelly out of your eye. There are lasers. They are called photocoagulation lasers. They are painful, I will be honest with you. Although there are times where I felt like it was much more painful than others, I do think that is a technology that is moving forward. I started having issues with my eyes over 10 years ago. That is a very long time for medicine to move forward. At first, when I was getting the treatments, they were very painful. Now, my most recent one was probably 4 years ago, and I went in there scared because I remembered what it was like, and I sat down and we were doing it, and it was not like the pain I remembered. And what those do is essentially they're bursts. They burn, the laser bursts, and they burn the blood vessels shut. There are different types, and then that just stops the bleeding in its tracks. So it doesn't fix what already has bled, but it stops from more bleeding occurring. And usually you do need a few sessions of these lasers, but it is outpatient. It's done in the office, and your eye basically just feels sore and dry the next day. And of course, surgery, but the surgery is more to remove what has already died, what has already closed off, and the scarring that is, threatening to detach the retina. To me, the surgery felt more like a cleanup than a proactive procedure, but it helped. At the end of the day, these things are scary, but going through what I went through and now looking back, the fear of going through the lasers and the surgeries and the injections and losing my vision completely, getting my vision back, the hemorrhaging, that fear was so much greater than the fear of, oh, I think something's wrong, I should go to the doctor, but I'm scared. So just keep that in mind, that the fear of going to the doctor and maybe finding out that something is wrong is not as great as the fear of putting it off and going in and finding out that yes, something is wrong, something was wrong a while ago, and now there is a journey and a road to fix it. I am available if you guys ever need to chat with me. Leave me comments down below. Follow me on my social medias. My email address is always in the information box below. I'm not a doctor. There's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot that I'm learning, but I do have my own experience, and I think sometimes it's important to hear it from someone that went through it because it makes it feel more real. So I'm here to share my story, and thank you guys so much for listening and letting me share my story. I will see you in the next one. Bye.